How are you?
I'm great. And you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm
Yeah,
so
nice to meet you.
It's my pleasure. It's nice to meet you too. I'm so glad to see you.
Likewise, yeah.
So let's start. In your perspective, why are so many people are suffering from depression in the world today? And how can we help them to overcome in this difficult mental state?
So, I believe the reason why people suffer from mental health issues such as depression is for different reasons. One reason I believe is trauma. Um, a lot of people, I think a majority of the human population have experienced some sort of trauma in their lives. And trauma can be something extreme, like, for instance, war, death of a person, close person, like family member or close friend, grief. That's all huge trauma. So there's different degrees of trauma. um so like I said, the big trauma from big traumatic events from the past that can have an ongoing impact on the mental health. Some people get post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people just I mean, I shouldn't say just, but some people get depressed, and some people get severely depressed. And other people experience trauma in other ways, meaning that it's not always extreme trauma that affects people. It can be also minor trauma. So, like, for instance, if someone was in a relationship for a longer time and then they experience a breakup, that's some form of trauma as well. It should not be underestimated, because every person is different. Some people may be able to overcome things like that quicker than others. Some people are more prone um, to being affected by minor traumas, or a job loss. Um, a lot of people struggle financially. So I believe that counts as a form of trauma as well, because the human population suffers from financial pressures of different sorts, different countries to different degrees. I believe that um, financial pressure has a huge impact on people's mental health, and that can lead to depression as well. So, yeah, I think also burnout. That's the other reason that I wanted to mention. The word depression, you know, it deep rest. The word deep rest is in the word depression. If you look at the word closely, it just means that a person may be in need of deep rest because they're burned out. So, for instance, if someone has a lot of financial pressure, and then they may be overworking themselves. There are people who, for instance, they work maybe 3 jobs, and then they're completely burned out. And that burnout can lead to depression as well, because sometimes the mind needs rest. And if the mind is on system overload, that can lead to depression as well, in my opinion.
And how can people develop ecological and spiritual thinking independently?
So it's just by working on themselves and doing their research. So I'm huge on mindset and spirituality and psychology. These are the topics that I have done a lot of research on. because I'm very interested in those topics like spirituality, anything to do with mindset and psychology, because I believe the rest falls into place. So anything economical, political, which I have to admit, I'm not the best person to speak to about political things because I don't have the knowledge that some other people may have. So um, I'm more on the psychological mindset side because I believe that if a person does their research about how to improve themselves and they work on their mindset and they make self-care a priority, then that's how they can develop that independently by themselves. And also, what I wanted to mention is I hope it's okay to mention an event that I have coming up. Um, I'm working with my best friend who's got an events company called Consulting and Events, and we do yoga retreats. And the aim of those yoga retreats is to help people with their psychological and mental well-being, the physical, spiritual, mental well-being. I think that's a great way to contribute to world peace in a way because it's all connected. Every person's mind is important, and in this world we're all a web of people who are interconnected. So if we one may think that we don't have an impact by doing small things, but actually we do, because it's like a domino effect. So yeah, so we're doing this yoga retreat in near Glasgow. It's a place called Dolla, which is in Scotland, between Glasgow and Edinburgh. And it's for 4 days in April. And if anyone's interested in yoga and mindset work, the website is consultingandevents.com. So it's just to mention about how to help, to come just briefly touch back on your previous question, how to help people to conquer depression is by doing things such as yoga, mindset work. And that's also your second answer to your second question at the same time. How can people develop their spiritual and economical thinking independently? It's just by working on themselves, I believe. um, a lot of people look on what's happening on the outside in this world, and there's horrible things happening in this world. But I think the first step is always to start from within, to think, how can I become a better person? How can I start feeling better? Because then when you fill your own cup and you start feeling better as an individual, then you can go and contribute more to help other people and to to um to provide that help that other people need as well.
I take your point. I think yes, we have to. If we want to change the world, we have to start with ourselves. Yes. Um, those yoga sessions, are they're going online, or what kind of format is there?
This is in person, so it's probably more for people who can easily travel to Scotland, because it's 4 days in person retreats. We have done one before last year in July, which went really well. And we're gonna do another one in April and then another one in August.
That sounds really great. I hope it will be helpful to people, for people, and they're gonna
Thank you.
be better. Um, do you have any advices about maybe what kind of books people should read to overcome some troubles and maybe depression help themselves? How can they do it without a professional psychologist, or so they can do it free?
Yeah. So a book that has really helped me was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Um, so I can, if that's okay, I can tell you a quick story around how I discovered this book. So it was about 9 years ago, or almost 10 years ago now. My dad passed away, and it really affected me because my dad and my parents, they are in Germany, and I've already been in the UK at the time. And when you live in another country and you lose a parent all of a sudden, that's again a form of trauma. So I was really that experience has changed me as a person, but in a good way, because even though it was horrible losing my dad, it sent me on a journey of self-discovery. So I actually did one counseling slash therapy session. And during that therapy session, the counselor, or the therapist, he recommended me the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And the book talks all about present moment awareness, which is hard because as humans, we think a lot about the past, we think a lot about the future, and the focus on the past is also what can create depression. Is those traumatic memories can be very draining to our minds, which can cause depression as well. But then on the other hand, focusing on the future too much or being fearful about the future can cause anxiety. So that's the other spectrum where people suffer um, with mental health if there's too much focus on the past or the future. So that's why The Power of Now really analyzes it, and really is a great book. I can recommend it to anyone who starts their journey of self-discovery. And then as time went by, I really started diving deeper into manifestation practices. So I started reading or listening to videos by Abraham Hicks. Um, and she wrote books on the topic of manifestation. Is about the law of attraction, and Ask and It Is Given is another book by them. And the reason why I like these books is because it helps us realize that anything is possible. We are not as limited as we think. Anything is really possible if we put our minds to it. And that's what really gave me a lot of hope when I started reading those books back in 2017. And also, another great inspiring person I discovered was Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard wrote also a lot of books. Um, I haven't read any of them personally, but I heard a lot about them. And I'm obsessed with researching on YouTube anything inspiring on there. So I came across Neville Goddard, and that's again about manifestation and how anything is possible, and how really the concept of anything that's going within you is being reflected on the outside, which then we realize we can't really blame other people too much. So if you, for instance, have an argument with someone, um, I sometimes remind myself, I created this argument to some extent because there's something within me that's being reflected back to me. So it's basically, to cut it all short, because it's really a topic I could speak about for hours, and it takes some time to explaining to people who never heard of it before. Um, but it's basically all about, again, what I was saying previously, is working on yourself to strengthen your nervous system, strengthen your mindset, and then you're equipped to help other people. And when it comes to bigger things in the world, like wars and when we hear it on the news, and we feel so helpless, because we think, how can we help people who struggle in this world? Because that's the big question, really, isn't it? How can we help those people? Well, it's really, we can provide resources, and we can donate to charities, but also all we can do is work on ourselves, so we can then contribute to this world becoming a better place.
Thank you for sharing. And my final question is, what's your opinion on how humanity might come together and promote spiritual progress without wars, conflicts, and social inequality?
Yeah, that's a really tricky question. Because on one hand, realistically, most people would say, when you watch the news and you see what's going on in the world, and you think, oh, there's a war happening and then another war happening, and we feel so helpless as individuals, because we can't just stop the big powers from, you know um so it may never happen, but world peace may realistically never happen, because it's tricky to stop big powers from, we can't really control what's going on in the world. But then, on the other hand, what we can do is, like I said before, we can become the best version of ourselves. That's all we can do, is think, how can I become the best version of myself, so I can grow in different ways. For instance, if I grow financially, I then have more resources to give to people who really need it, to charities, and to send things over. So that's one area to grow in, to then help other people. Then, how can I grow spiritually? By becoming a better person. So when we really look after our mental health, when we really make it a priority to improve our mental state, then we become the best version of ourselves, and then we can have more inner strength to be there for other people. So, for instance, with the yoga retreats, that's one thing where someone improves their skills and then teaches other people how to work on their physical, mental, and spiritual health, which then that person feels better, and then they feel better, which means in their everyday life, they are nicer to other people. Then that person they are nicer to will have a better day. And then they will be nice. You know what I mean? It's like a chain reaction, it's
Yeah,
like a domino effect. And that's something that should never be underestimated, because most people think, oh, I'm just one person. I don't really have an impact on the world. What can I do? But actually, if we all as individuals try to be a nicer person, try to be um try to think, how can I give more value to the people around me, then that will have an effect on the people I know, and then the people they know, and then it's like a ripple effect, a domino effect that can then go out in the world. And if everyone does that, then we contribute to a better energetic frequency in the world, because our emotions are like a frequency. And in order to create peace, we need to be on the frequency of peace. If I start arguing with everyone I know, then that person will have a crappy day. And then they may have an argument with someone else. And then, and I think my theory is, I mean, it's tricky to explain, but I think a lot of what's going on in the world obviously has to do with greed. People get greedy. The big powers get, is greed. That's what drives people to do wars, is pride and greed. It's the human ego. But if we work on dissolving our egos, then that will have that ripple effect. And we may never be able to stop people completely from doing wars, but we can at least work towards the right direction. And I'm convinced if every single person in this world would become a strong individual that thinks for themselves and that embraces that inner peace, if every person on this planet would do that, then it's much more likely that there would be world peace. But people have to overcome their ego and the greed that humans have,
Thank you for explaining so much things for us and sharing with your personal story and with about the books. I hope that will be helpful to other people. I think it will. And have a great day. Have a great evening. Uh, I hope we'll be in touch and maybe talk more about depression and other important topics.
That would be nice. Yes. Thank you very much for your time, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.